So I bought some new products for my network and I thought I would share those with you. So this isn't going to be an unboxing video because they're already unboxed, they're already installed. So I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about what they are, why I decided to use them, briefly talk you through the setup process, and hopefully that helps you make some informed purchases if you're interested in this sort of thing. So we'll start off with the Unifi Cloud Key. So if you'd seen some of my other videos, I have a few Ubiquit products. So I have a couple of nano beams which handles the internet connection between the cave and the house. They had their own controller installed, so you just go to each of those devices directly. And then more recently I had the Unifi access point, the light version, which I covered on the channel. And in order to configure those and manage them, it needs to have the Unifi controller. Now you can install that on your PC, be that a Windows machine, a Mac, or what have you. And there's also an ability to install that on a Raspberry Pi. There seems to be mixed results as to how well that works. But I had it running on one of my older PCs for a while, and up until recently that was working kind of fine, but the machine decided to die. And in deciding what to do, I decided I would just cough up the money and buy one of these cloud keys. So they're about £70, so not super cheap for essentially, which is basically just a small basic computer. But I decided I'd pick one of these up really just for ease of use, and knowing that there's a dedicated device, so I'm going to worry about always having a machine on somewhere that's running the control in the background. So I decided to pick one of these up. So it is, I guess, by its name, it has connection to the cloud, but you don't need to worry about that too much because you can basically decide, if you can manage it from the cloud or whatever. The really handy thing is if you don't have the ability to run your own network scanner at home, when you log in to the cloud interface, you will be able to tell you what local IP is using if you want to set it that way. So you're obviously going to have to utilize an existing Ubiquit Cloud account or create a new one. It's all free, so nothing to worry about there. And basically, when you get this, the current version is using USB-C for its power source. It doesn't come with a USB cable. Basically in the box, like I said, this is already installed, but you get a cloud key itself, a quick start guide, a small micro SD card which is 8 GB in size, which basically is where everything runs from, and you get this small Ethernet cable. So you can power this via power over Ethernet if you like. My switch doesn't support PoE. I didn't feel like buying an adapter just to power this, so I just have a USB-C cable plugged into this and connected into the back of the server. There is a little on and off button on the side, so you press and hold it and it will start a shutdown script to shut this down in a controlled manner. A couple of times I was originally setting this up, I had some power outages and it did cause some slight corruption, so I had to kind of do a factory reset. So just keep that in mind, that it is important how you shut this thing down. But once you've plugged it in, the little light on the front will flash white, then it will go to constant white once it's booted but not adopted, and then once you adopt it, like all of these products, they go to a continuous blue light. So as I mentioned before, you create an account or log in to an account you have already. It recommends that you install the Unifi Discover device, so you can just get this as a Chrome plugin or whatever browser, etc. you're using. That aids with the local discovery and communication to the account, the cloud account you have, then basically let you know what IP address this device is on, so you can then connect to it and start the configuration and management. So it's really straightforward. The only issue I ran into is, obviously I had an existing Unifi controller that was running on that old PC, which now no longer existed. And so when I wanted to adopt my two access points, obviously were already being managed by this other controller, I had some issues. And really the main reason for that is because the existing controller wasn't online, there was not an ability to have that adoption handshake. So I couldn't provide the credentials for the old controller to do a handover because it obviously wasn't there anymore. So I had to kind of factory reset both of my access points and then do a brand new adoption from scratch. But all worked really well, and it's good to know that there's this dedicated device that's just focused on this. It doesn't matter if I have to do a software update on my machine or I run out of memory or anything, so it's just dedicated just for this. This then takes me on to the Unifi Security Gateway. Now, this is obviously a great device and it helps secure your network and gives you more visibility. I won't lie, it's about £150, and one of the primary reasons I bought it was just I guess an OCD frustration that the deep packet inspection section of the controller is constantly greyed out because I didn't have this device. So I ummed and ahed about it for a little while, and I thought, well, if I'm already spending the money on this Cloud Key, I will spend a little bit extra and pick up the security gateway as well. So if you buy the current model, so there's lots of stuff online about if people are getting the right model, especially if they're buying from Amazon or other suppliers. I'll put links to both of these in Amazon. I got both of mine from there. The current model says WAN 1, LAN 1, WAN 2 and LAN 2. The older model says VoIP. So that's how you can tell if you've got the new or old model. Some people also, especially in the UK, have had it shipped with a European plug. This is not uncommon. Normally the supplier will ship you a UK plug separately in the box, but this all came with a UK plug. So all you need to supply are the Ethernet cables. So obviously your configuration will be slightly different based on how you have things set up. Basically, I have my internet provided by BT, and I have one of the old fiber modems, and it's basically the fiber modem connects into the WAN port, and then the LAN port connects to my 16 port switch, and then everything else is plugged into that switch. So obviously, as you'd expect with a gateway, all traffic is flowing in and out of this device, which has enabled it to do the management, the blocking of the ports, the deep packet inspection, etc. I also have an airport time capsule, and so I have that plugged into the switch as well. Obviously not into this device, but plugged into the switch. I have all the network features of that disabled, so this is taking care of DHCP and everything, as opposed to that old time capsule that was doing that before. And you can configure PPOE or whatever method of authentication and connection you're using to your network provider on this box. So again, the setup is really kind of super straightforward. You plug it in, it flashes white while it's booting. It goes constant white before it's been adopted. Once you adopt it with your controller, then it will go constantly blue. It obviously is, the idea here is this is your main gateway. So by default, it assigns itself an IP address of 192.168.1.1. So you want to make sure that, one, you don't have any conflicts with other devices on your network, and that you either have a laptop or a desktop that in the first instance you might plug it into the LAN port, so that you can communicate on that IP range. So if you go to 192.168.1.1, you'll basically be able to see that it's got an internet connection and everything to confirm everything's working fine before you go through the controller setup. But once you're in there, there's not really too much to do. You can just leave it all as standard, and obviously one of the things that you'll notice is perhaps if you have certain applications they're not working because certain ports are now blocked, because traditionally most routers you get from these ISPs utilize UPnP, so it's automatically managing that port allocation. You can enable that on this device if you like. The only thing I set up was some unique port forwarding for a Plex server that I'm running. Everything else is pretty much locked down. And obviously with the Unifi controller, I set up an additional guest LAN to have a separate VLAN, but that's mainly for the wireless stuff. Then obviously the interesting thing is to start seeing all the statistics from that deep packet inspection that was all grayed out before. Now I can easily see in real time what my upload and download speeds are. There's a built-in speed test. You can also see your latency metrics real time. You can also see how much up and down of your bandwidth you're using in real time as well. And then a whole breakdown of different categories of kind of the types of traffic that you're using, how much you're sending, how much is coming down. So you can see, you know, how much you're using on Spotify, how much you're using on Netflix, if you've got kids playing games on Steam, you know, how much bandwidth you're using. So you really can start to understand a bit more about what it is that you're doing. The GUI is pretty good, so you can configure pretty much most things in there. If you want to do some very specific configurations, you need to go to the command line interface and dabble in there. So far, I haven't really had to do anything in there. Everything has been configurable for me from the GUI, and I'm really happy with it. So like I said, it's been about 2 weeks now that both these devices have been running on my network. Again, they're not cheap, but it does provide a good service, enables you to secure your network a little bit more. And like I said, for me, it was really more so I could see that deep packet inspection, not have all that stuff grayed out. So if you have any specific questions that probably I haven't answered in this, because it's not really a super deep technical overview, I'll do my best to answer your questions in the comments. If you have these devices and you've had good or bad experiences, please share that with others as well. But I continue to be a really big fan of these Ubiquiti Unifi products, and I hope you're getting good experiences with them too if you decided to pick some up.
Thanks for watching this video. A thumbs up would be really appreciated. If you're interested in other geek type videos, please consider subscribing to Spectrum Geeks. Why not also follow us on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. And before you leave, why don't you check out one of these other videos that may be of interest. Thanks again for watching.